to log on to the digital learning platform and then access all the material. Usually I explain the steps into utilizing the digital learning platform before we start, but I realized that because we do it very early on during the training process, we end up missing a lot of people. So I'd be doing this session after the first couple of sessions, which would be session 5 and session 6. Hopefully, everybody would have logged in then and I can demonstrate this properly. In case you are still facing challenges in logging onto this particular platform, please let me know, send me an email, and then I'll promptly respond to you. I'd also advise that in case you want to access your certificate, you need to be enrolled onto this platform to be able to obtain your certificate once the training is completed. And to obtain your certificate, you should have attempted and passed both quiz 1 and quiz 2, as well as including also the user feedback and evaluation of the course. Once these conditions have not been settled, you will not be able to access your certificate. I would also advise that you access your certificate at least a week or a maximum 2 weeks after the end date, that is today, of the webinar sessions, to avoid the course being archived and facing difficulties in accessing your certificate. The certificates won't be sent to you via email or on a one-on-one basis. I'd advise, please log into the portal, complete all the conditions required to retrieve your certificates, and then your certificates would be available for you to download under the general tab of the digital learning platform. So I'd like to start off today. Today we have, I think we'll be having more than 3 presenters, because we'll be having 1 presenter for the first application, and then we're going to have 2 people talk about communication and collaboration in marine weather forecasting, and then Mr. Foley from day 1 would be back to take us to ocean state alerts under the GMES and Africa project. So without much ado, I'd like to hand over to our first presenter. She's Martha Puplampu. She's coming from the Ghana Meteorological Agency yet again. And because this is an introductory marine meteorology course, it's important that we have the right people to train you on marine meteorology. This time round, we chose to have experts from the Ghana Meteorological Agency to do so. So at this point in time, I'll hand over to Martha to take us through our first session of the day. Good afternoon, Martha. How are you doing? Martha, just hold on a bit. I think your mic is muted, so we cannot hear you. Can you please unmute your microphone so we can hear you?
Good afternoon, Ignatius.
Thank you. That's much better. That's much better. We can all hear you now. Okay, so Martha is going to be taking us to the marine weather forecasting applications, and then the floor is yours. If you can please share your screen with us, and then we can proceed with today's session.
Okay. Hope you can see my screen, please.
Yes, your screen is visible. Can you please move into full? Yes, that's perfect. So we can see everything now. So the floor is yours.
Good afternoon once again. My name is Martha Puplampu, and I'll be taking you through this session. And we are going to talk about marine weather forecasting applications, with our focus on weather routing, decision making for marine operations. We'll look at some case studies and examples. And then in the practical section, I'm going to demonstrate how to develop a weather routing plan for a maritime operation. So let's move on. Weather routing simply involves deciding on the shortest possible distance between um, 2 points. Okay, that's basically the point of departure and also the point of destination. It does not always necessarily means that we have to find the shortest travel time, but it also seeks to optimize voyages by avoiding the risk of adverse weather and also protecting crew and optimizing fuel consumption simultaneously. So weather routing is simply used to plan trips between ports where conditions such as winds, wave currents vary greatly throughout the day. Okay, and then some weather conditions also experience along the route influences the time taken on the voyage. Weather routing has many benefits, but its primary benefit is in cost and time reduction and also increase safety. So with the cost and time reduction, it's the saving gotten there is actually it's derived from reductions in transit time, severe weather encounters, and fuel consumption, cargo and hull damage. So the decision making for marine operations, the WMO, sorry, has provided some guidelines for decision making in marine operation in ensuring the safety of marine um, uh, in ensuring the safety, sorry, of personnel and then that of the environment. And then the first step in using this guideline is to assess the latest weather forecast and observation. And also this should include informations on winds, waves, and sea currents. Also, visibility has to be considered when obtaining this information. After this is done, operators should also consider the risks associated with the operation. This has to do with the potential, identifying the potential hazards and also assessing the likelihood and impact of this hazard. An example being that a ship it may be at risk at sea of capsizing due to strong winds and high waves. So once that has been done, we have to develop a plan of action. And with that, it has to do with getting resources available, such as search and rescue teams and equipment in case there's any severe weather conditions. Also, while on sea, they have to continue to monitor the weather and sea conditions and adjust the plan of necessary the plan of action when necessary. And also they have to communicate with personnel and stakeholders with the decision that has been taken. So with the case study, in Ghana, most of the artisanal fishermen predict weather changes using traditional methods, and some of them are basically observe the clouds, the position of the sun, the movement of birds and some animals to forecast the weather changes. And sometimes they also use the experience that they have gathered over the years to forecast the weather. But nowadays, using such methods is actually becoming problematic because of the fact that the weather keep changing rapidly. So due to this, they have made some losses from strong winds and tidal wave. So in order for them to be able to understand the state of the ocean, Ghana Meteorological Agency actually provides them with regular and daily marine forecast. They also provide training to some of the chief fishermen to interpret and also translate this forecast into their local languages to be able to share among the fisher folks using their WhatsApp platforms and also community information centers. And for the feedback that we've been getting so far shows that they are able to check the state of the ocean. They are able to check the state of the ocean, and also it has been very useful to them. So an example is a fisherman and also the president of Canoe and Fishing Gear Owners Association. He's Nana Peja. He explained in an article that in the past, the fishermen have actually suffered severe damages to canoe, outboard motors, and fishing gears due to these tidal waves and storm surge. So with the information that is being provided on the state of the ocean, which is basically whether it's rough or calm or dangerous, with this kind of information, they are able to know whether to go to sea or not. So another example is on the 17th of March, a weather forecast was issued that at the start of the period, forecast period, there will be some rainstorms which will be preceded and accompanied by strong winds. So on the forecast period, that was the next day, a weather warning alert was issued that there are actually rainstorms over the marine space. But unfortunately, 6 persons drowned after the canyon in which they were traveling in capsided in the Volta River. And due to that, there was a little bit of, should I say, there was casualties. It's not little, I'm talking about lives. Sorry. So yeah, this is also an example. So basically, we have an impact, a positive impact, and sometimes when this forecasts are also ignored, this negative impact also takes place. So this video depicts. Please, can you hear the sound? Yes, so it's
Yes,
showing.
we can.
Okay, so this video actually is capturing canoes going to actually rescue some of the people that fell into the ocean. Basically, this is what is happened at that day. Okay, so moving on, we are going to learn how to develop a weather routing plan for a maritime operation. So these are some of the steps that you can use to develop your voyage plan, okay? So these links are accessible. When you click on them, you can get more information on some of the models that you can use to assess some of the weather conditions. You'll be able to get access to them, sorry. So the first thing to do is to assess the weather conditions. So you can look out for severe weather, and then also look out for the strong winds, check for visibility and see if they are okay. And you move on, you then move on to select your route. It should be an optimum route in which you can be able to avoid any weather encounters on the ocean. After that, you have to continue to monitor these weather conditions during the trip. when there are any occurrences of severe weather conditions, you can then consider alternative routes. So let's consider this scenario, okay, that you are moving from port A, port C, or port D to a destination port B. The first thing that you have to do is to check for the state of the ocean, see whether it is calm, rough, or dangerous. So I have an analyzed chart here, which is the significant wave height. And over here, we can see that from the color and then the legend showing, we can see that the state of the sea is between calm and rough in these areas. Okay. And also, we have to look out for the surface wind. And at these areas, we can see that the winds here are mainly southeasterlies, and those other areas too are northeasterlies. And it's had the speed ranging between 5 to 15 knots. Okay, so after that, we now have to select the route, the optimal route. And from port A to port B, it's obvious that this will be the direct route you can take, which will be easier. But we can see some developments of rainstorms at these areas and also at that area. So this route might not be the best. And when we look at the mid-level winds, that is the 700 hectopascal at these areas, we can see that the winds have an easterly component, which we're going to steer the systems, okay, at these directions. It's going to move the storms to the west. So this area will be the best route to use. So we have to consider another route. We can move south and then navigate through and get to port B, sorry. Okay, so also looking at port C, this can be a very good route, but due to the systems that is forming here, we can't use, it's not optimal for us to use this route. So we have to then find another suitable route to use. So we can use this route, move behind the storm, pass through this route, and then get to point B. Same as point D, there are some systems forming here. And in order to avoid that, we can also use this route to get to point B. So basically, these are some of the ways that we can actually plan our weather routing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Martha. That was a quick one. I'd welcome questions from the floor, if any, before I proceed to the next presentation. So for anyone who has any question, please put it in the chat and then we'll get to it. And whilst we're waiting for the questions, I just want to inquire if there are any fishermen or researchers who embark on journeys via, be it a fishing vessel or canoe or whatever, particularly present in this training. Just put your hands up and I'd want to find what your experience has been in planning your routes when you're going out to fish or for whatever journey it is. If you have any people online who travel or embark on voyages via the sea and vessels, please just put your hands up, and I just want to know what your experience is and how you plan your journeys. Okay, it seems the fishermen didn't tune in today. I do realize you did mention Nana Kweja, who is part of the Canoe and Fishing Gear Association. He's registered on this course. So I was hoping to find him online to get some information from him anyways. But from a meteorological agency perspective, have you had any encounters or any experience where fishermen do plan their routes according to, let's say, the weather, or do take this into consideration? Because like you said, they are more concerned about how much fuel that they are going to expend in their trip. So have you had any experience where they are saying, okay, during this time, or we know it's going to rain, so we are going to take a different route, or we are not going to go here to fish? Have you had any such experience?
Oh, yes, because mostly when we issue the forecast on the marine forecast page, they actually send feedbacks that, oh, they got the forecast in time, and then it's actually helping them. Even as of today, one yeah, his name wasn't in it, but then he was actually giving a feedback that the information is very helpful. And I remember that a ship, okay, was moved from Tema to Takrade using the wave currents. They actually used the direction of the wave currents to actually move a ship from Tema to Takrade. So I think Mr. Potofi can give more insight on that issue. Yes, sir.
All right.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Sorry, Mr. Potofi, you've gone mute. Can you please unmute your microphone?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much. As I was saying, traditionally, our local fishermen do plan their voyage or do plan their fishing expedition. And when we were having engagement with them, we realized that the most important thing for them is, one, the current, the direction of the current, and also the direction of the wind helps them a lot. So some of them go as far as Togo to fish. Some of them go as far as Abidjan waters to go and fish. And when they get those informations, yes, they make use of them. I think this morning, Simon Oko from the area of Adan was saying that, yes, the forecast he had yesterday was able to help them to come on land, because they realized that there will be a lot of thundering activities over the sea early hours in the morning. So at dawn, some of them managed to come back, though they went for fishing, but because of the data they had, they were able to come back early before we had this early morning race. So planning of the voyage, yes, for the artisanal fishermen, and they do it their local way. They can some of go and stand and look at how the winds are blowing, and then per what you have been giving them, they look at the amount of fuel that they'll be using and which direction they should move. This is what I wanted to say on the planning, especially for the local fishermen.
Okay, but before you go, I'm just curious. So do you think it would be relevant, based on their needs, to have maybe systems or a Met office directly in place at fish landing sites or at harbors to guide the activities of some of these artisanal fishermen, or even with the industrial and semi-industrial, to get some of these weather routing maps before they go out to sea, or even to train them on how to prepare their own weather routing maps?
Yeah, it is very, very important. And I think as we are going along with the GMES Africa project, we are also planning to make sure that we include weather routing maps for the usage of the artisanal fishermen. Since most of them are on our platform, they are leaders on our platforms. When we develop it, we can share with their leaders, and then their leaders will also share with their colleagues. I think to start with, this is what we can do. But since some of them are very enlightened and very literate, we can also organize some training for them, and then they can take it from there if they so wish.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Potofi. This time round, I'm going to throw it to the participants. I'm just curious, do you have any idea of what happens within your countries, your respective countries, when it comes to weather routing maps in the marine or the coastal domain? If you have an answer for this, please just raise a hand out, enable your microphone, and then you can tell us what your experience within your countries is. So I'll just give maybe just a minute for that. If you have any experience, you can just lift your hand out, enable your microphone, and then we can hear what you have to say concerning this. I realize there are a couple of people coming from the meteorological agencies all across, from Sierra Leone, from Togo, from Liberia, from Senegal. If you have any experience that you want to share with us, or even if you are working with a particular ministry, Direction des Pêches, Maritime, any of those relevant agencies, just let us know your experience if you want to share with us. Okay, I think I'm not getting any responses so far. So I'd like to move on to the next topic for today. I'd like to say a very big thank you to you, Martha, for sharing these insights with us. So we'll move on to our next presentation, which is looking at communication and collaboration in marine weather forecasting. To do this, we have the Deputy Director for the Ghana Meteorological Agency and also very own Met technician, Joanna, to help us with this presentation. Hello, Joanna. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Can you please share your slides with us and then proceed with the presentation?
Can you see my screen, please?
Yes, we can. Unfortunately, we cannot see your slides. I'm seeing myself. Okay.
Hello, is it visible now?
Yes, it's visible, but it seems you've already started your presentation. Can you go back to your title slide and skip a couple of slides?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm a senior meteorological technician from Ghana Meteorological Agency. Okay, and I'll take the first part of this session. That's the communication protocols for marine weather forecasting. And then my senior colleague will take it from there. So we have hundreds of personnel working all over the country, collecting data and analyzing them. We're rendering their work very useless. So this is to say that communication is a very important aspect of our services. So I would like to I would like to explain a few terms as we move along and some abbreviations. So the first thing I would like to talk about is who a mariner is. A mariner is basically any individual who is involved in the operation or navigation of a fishing, not a fishing vessel per se, but any vessel on sea. So we can call a sailor a mariner, we can call a fisherman a mariner, we can equally call a Navy officer a mariner. And the Worldwide Met Ocean Information and Warning Service provides maritime safety information to these mariners because we are trying to protect their lives and then their vessels. So maritime safety information, just like the name implies, is any information that is seeking to protect lives at sea and then vessels at sea as well. And this information usually comes in the form of forecast and then warning products. Our previous lessons, we talked about Met area and we have coordinators. So it's more like division of labor. Each Met area coordinator works hand in hand, and then eventually we're able to communicate information over oceans, over the well, globally, I mean. Okay, so going forward, I'll talk about a complex communication system, and then I'll talk about the local ones that we use in our day-to-day activities. But before then, I would like to draw your attention to one important factor, that is communicating weather in a timely and then an accurate manner. So imagine we have the information, which is very accurate. It's telling you how the state of the ocean is going to be and everything, but it does not come on time. It means we will have some operators or fishermen go to sea before they even get this information, and that will render this work that has gone into it also useless. And let's imagine it comes on time, although, but it comes and then is inaccurate. This also is going to affect operations at sea. So the point I'm trying to drive home here is that every information that is communicated must be timely, and then it must also be in a clear manner. So there are some protocols that we follow in communicating this information that we get to ensure safety at sea. So the first one is that your client should be known. So let's take this scenario: a surfer, and then surfers are into recreation on the sea or the ocean. So let's compare these two people, the surfer and then the fisherman. In terms of a parameter like the significant wave height, the fisherman won't have a good day if it's too high, if the significant wave height is too high for the fisherman, because it's going to probably capsize his or her boat, and this is going to lead to a loss. So knowing your customer or your clients will help you understand how to communicate some of these information to them. This same high significant wave height may be good. It may be a good condition for the surfer because that's where they even find their activities more thrilling. You're surfing on the sea and then the waves are high and then you're enjoying it. So this is to say that you should know your clients so that you know how these parameters affect their operations. Another reason why you should know your clients is that it helps you tailor your information to them. And then also it helps get feedback. So just previously, Martha mentioned that we get feedback from our clients. They tell you, let's just say you adapted a strategy, and then maybe over a week or 2 weeks, you're getting feedback that, okay, so the information you gave us was exactly what happened on sea. So it will inform you that whatever strategy you've adopted is working, and then maybe you should stick to it and improve it. And then if the feedback tool is going against your information, then it means something is wrong, and then you can rectify it. Also, when you know your clients, they have this trust in the information you are giving because they believe you took their interest at heart before coming up with your forecast. So it builds this trust between our clients and then the providers of these services, just like any other business. So it's very important to know your clients when it comes to communicating forecast. And then going forward you have to understand how forecast and warnings are communicated. We have various clients, which we listed some in our previous slide. So if you know these clients, you know the channels that you have to use. So we'll talk about a few of them, but knowing this, probably you know a set of clients that are not using smartphones or they don't have internet connectivity in their area. So you know which channel that you have to use. And then when it comes to language proficiency, orally, there are times that we have to depend on chief fishermen especially in the typical traditional fishing areas, to explain forecasts to their men that goes to sea. And there are times too that we have phone calls coming in, and then we will have to give them weather information or on marine weather information. And then we have to make sure this is not done in any vague or ambiguous language. It has to be as precise as possible. And then in terms of graphics, let's just say like how Ghana Meteorological Agency does it, we use color codes. So if you are using any kind of graphics, you should make sure it has its keys or interpretation so that anybody that sees it is able to interpret it without any help. So we have colors like red, and then red tells the consumer of that information that the state of the sea is going to be dangerous, and so you have to take caution. You probably not shouldn't go. And then when it's yellow, it means it's rough. And then when it's green, it's calm. So if you're going to sea for purposes of fishing or any commercial activity, then it means it's a good time for you to go. So these graphics at a glance will give you the information that you need without even reading. But we still need to inculcate some writing. And just like the oral, we have to make sure that it's not vague as well. So you don't use words like or if it's calm, you have to state it. If it's going to be rough, you have to state it. And then you summarize in case the graphics, somebody needs more insight on the graphics. And then yesterday, some of the trainers talked about the parameters, the oceanic parameters and atmospheric parameters. So let's take the significant wave height, for instance. It may be very high and so may be bad for a fisherman. So that is very obvious that he probably shouldn't go to sea. But let's just say the significant wave height is low enough and so the state of the sea is calm. However, in terms of atmospheric parameters, let's take visibility for instance. There is fog and so the visibility is that bad. Even though the state of the sea is calm, it still has to inform the consumer of this information that it's not a good time to go to sea. So these are some of the protocols that we need to follow in communicating. So you know your clients, you know the channels that you use to communicate to them. And then when it comes to language, you have to be as precise as possible. And then you know your parameters, whether it's oceanic or atmospheric, and then how it's going to affect the operations of these mariners at sea. So Ghana Meteorological Agency, we prepare the forecasts and the warnings, but we do not issue them. We have something called the National Meteorological and Hydrological Services, and then they do the issue. They are called issuing members. So in subsequent slides, I'll use an illustration to explain more on that. And then currently we use the Inmarsat satellite. So I mentioned that I'll talk about one complex communication system, and I'll talk about the day-to-day ones that we already know. So the complex one is called the Global Maritime Distress and Safety System. So this system basically is to, just like the name implies, supposed to ensure safety at sea. So it has a number of components. It has one that is the maritime safety information. We already talked about this. It also has a component called radio communication, so that wherever the fishing vessels are, not fishing vessels, sorry, any kind of vessels on high seas, they can communicate. They have taken, they have moved from their points, they have moved from the shore, so they are somewhere on the sea, and then they need to communicate either to other vessels on the sea or back to the shore. They can use the radio communications to do that. And there's another component called distress alerts, and then we have the search and rescue coordinations. But this system is used by bigger vessels on the high sea. So I was trying to explain the issuing service in relation to the satellites. So if you can see this diagram right here. So as a meteorological agency, we prepare the forecast and then we share with the NH, the National Meteorological and Hydrological Service, and they communicate via the LES, that's the Land Earth Station, and this is a ground-based instrument. So we communicate the National Meteorological and Hydrological Service will queue in this data that has been sent from the Meteorological Agency, and then this will will communicate with the satellites and then is made available to any vessel on the sea as long as they have the safety net terminal to receive such signals. So I talked about the radio communications. So we have one that is called the very high frequency voice radio, and then we have the high frequency voice radio. So this, like I said, basically is to ensure communication on the sea, either ship to ship or ship to the shore. Okay, so these are more of them. So we have the fax that sometimes you need to communicate chats. So this fax comes in. So in terms of the GMDSS, like I explained, the Global Maritime Distress and Safety System, these are some of the products that are received. And of course, consumers of this information usually have the required education to understand some of this coding that goes into it. So the NAVTEX, and then we have the HF, NBDP, and we have more. We have the digital selective calling system. So these are some of the products that are used by high seas, like I said. So the one I just spoke about, I mentioned that was a complex communication system. However, an institution like ours, Ghana Meteorological Agency, we use some of these day-to-day technology to communicate data. So we have WhatsApp groups. We have most people who consume this information using mobile phones, and then WhatsApp is now used by numerous people. So we form groups, and then we add these people onto these groups, and we share this information. And there are times that we receive emails, and then we respond appropriately. There are some countries that have radio stations designated for just marine information. Some countries make use of newspapers and magazines, TV stations, and all that. But for us, we have been making very good use of the USSD code, the email, and then the WhatsApp as well. So basically, this has been the channels that we have been using. And then I think yesterday, one trainer mentioned the mobile app. Yes. So that one too has been in use. So these are some of the communication channels that we use as an agency, and then the protocols I mentioned earlier on. So all these have to be taken into consideration when communicating marine weather information. And I would like to reiterate the fact that whatever information that is being communicated must be accurate and it must be timely. So at this point, I will hand over to Mr. Pottofi to continue with the session. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Joanna, for your wonderful presentation. I never knew that you've upgraded to a chief meteorologist, chief marine meteorologist. Thank you very much. Yes, we are still discussing on the collaborative decision making for maritime operations. And when she was speaking, I think she made mention of an issuing service. And when we talk about issuing services, the people who actually arrange and receive the information and use it to prepare the forecast and the warnings. So we have the responsibility. I think he made a little mistake somewhere. The National Meteorological Hydrological Service, Ghana Meteorological Agency is part of them. So any institution, recognized institution in the country, which is the National Meteorological and Hydrological Service. In certain institutions, hydrological and meteorological services are combined. But when you come to Ghana, they are separated. Though they are separated on the policy and then separated on paper and administratively. But when it comes to policy directions and working together, we work hand in hand. Currently, our Director General is in Geneva, Switzerland, with the Hydrological Service Director General. the two of them are there together. Thank you very much. So, yes, in a collaborative decision, when we were trying to develop some of the products, we have something that we call co-production. You need to get your stakeholders together. When Joanna was speaking, he made mention of knowing your clients and what they want. So when you bring these stakeholders together, they will tell you what they are doing on the ocean. And based upon that, you can sit with them and then come out with a marine forecast for them. And not only that, but you must also coordinate with your neighbors in other countries. For example, Togo, what affects Togo will definitely affect Ghana, and we'll move on to affect Cote d'Ivoire, and even move on all the way to Gambia along the coast, because our systems move from east to west. So when you see the system in your eastern corridor, it will move along. And currently, World Meteorological Organization is trying to create a platform for the West Africa countries so that they can share information on forecast. So that when the thing hits Togo, Togo can inform Ghana. Ghana can also inform Cote d'Ivoire. Cote d'Ivoire can inform Liberia, and then as we go along. And this will be a real-time something. And currently there was just last week, there was a meeting on it in Liberia, where one of our guys went on that issue. So in decision making, you need to get all your stakeholders, as I said earlier, together. The stakeholders, we have the countries, we have government and non-governmental organizations. Especially, I remembered when we started with the GMES Africa, we need to bring almost all the stakeholders together to deliberate on how best we can issue the forecast for the mariners. And people brought a lot of ideas, a lot of ideas. So in developing your forecast, it is very imperative for you to be able to bring all these stakeholders together and then solicit ideas from them. It is out of these ideas that you can go along and then prepare a product for them, which we normally call co-production, so that at least the fisherman is also owing the forecast because he has an input in it. For example, when it comes to determination of how dangerous, how high, how low the high tides are, every region, every country has its levels depending on the type of canoes or the type of fishing gears they are using, right? So if you collaborate with them and you brought in the co-production, some will tell you that yes, our canoe can withstand as much as 2-meter significant wave height. So from there, then you know where you can put your calmness, where you can put your rough, and where you can put your dangerous. On this slide, for example, on this slide, in Ghana here, we said what? When it is 1.5 meters high, it is calm. But in some countries, when you go to Kenya, yes, 1.5 meters is nothing for them. They will tell you 2.5 meters is just calm because already the sea is rough there. The minimum one you can get is about 2.5. So for them, they normally say calm is 2.5. When it comes to rough, it is greater than 2.5 and above, and dangerous 3.5. When you go to South Africa, because of the kind of canoes they are using, and their sea is also very rough. So for them, above 2.5 is still calm for them because the nature of the signal wave height in those areas are very, very high. But when you come to West Africa, especially Ghana, when you look at the canoes that we use, if a significant wave height of 2 meters could rock that canoe, you will lose all your properties, your fishing gears and everything, and maybe your lives will be at risk. So there is the need for us to be able to collaborate with the client or the users of the information we are going to provide at National Meteorological and Hydrological Services to come out with these parameters. And out of these parameters, yes, they can be able to educate their official folks and also make sure that you have a wider stakeholder meeting when you are developing some of these things, so that you can solicit, when we are coming out with this, the flag scenario or the color code scenario, yes, they came out with a lot of ideas. And it was out of these ideas that the GMES Africa adopted the red as dangerous, the yellow as rough, and then the green as calm. So there is the need for us to collaborate and then co-produce the forecast. When you co-produce it, they will understand the terms you are using. And as Joanna said, language. If it is in the area that they speak Nzima, you make sure that you get somebody in that area who will understand your forecast, and they will be able to translate that forecast into their local language. Then they can also disseminate to their foes. And then I believe when we do all these things, yes. Then also, let's come to the practical session in collaborating with a team to develop a marine weather forecast. Whatever forecast you are bringing out, you need to make sure that it is quality, it is prompt, it is reliable, and it is scientific. And how can you make sure you go through all these things? So there is a need for the issuing agencies to go through what we call quality management system principles. And out of this system, you'll be able to outline the practices and the procedures that you use in issuing your forecast. And also try to develop standard operating processes so that anybody that comes to your office and want to see how you do your forecast, there should be a document for you to go through with the person step by step in coming out with your forecast and your warnings. And also in quality management system, you should be able to document everything. Your forecast that you are issuing, make sure you keep them at least not less than 90 days. Not less than 90 days. So you can be backing it up in a soft copy. Because when something happened, they will call for that day forecast. If nothing happened, hooray. But when it happens, the committee or the investigators will call for what you have issued earlier. And if it is available, you just produce it without not forging anything. Without not forging anything. And that makes your forecast very reliable and people will have trust in it. Yes, stakeholder needs and operations. As I said earlier, terminologies that we use in communication, we need to be able to water it down to the level of, because most of our artisanal fishermen are not very literate. Some are very literate. Those who are very literate are the owners. They own the canoes, they own the fishing gears, they own the outbound motors. But those who carry the outbound motors onto the sea, some of them are not well educated. So when we are using words, we need to make sure that we communicate, we use words that when you communicate, there's no ambiguity in them, that they will understand, so that it will not create any confusion and doubt in their mind. And then make sure also that you do impact assessment of the weather variables. That's what we do here. Every week, we go back to look at the forecast that we have issued for the week. And then see how best the forecast has fared. If there is a challenge, what was the challenge? If there is a no, what was the no? What causes what we've observed not to come. And by so doing, we learn out of it. So there is a need for us to be able to at least get a feedback also. It shouldn't be one-way communication. You get a feedback from your client or from your users of that forecast. And when you get a feedback, assess it yourself and see whether what they are saying and what we have said, if it is not right, go back to your drawing board and look at what has made your forecast not to be availed with what they are observing in the ocean. And I believe that taking all these things into consideration will make your forecast very prompt, reliable, accessible, understandable to the client and the stakeholders. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Potofi, for throwing a lot of light onto this. There are a couple of questions waiting for you already. And the first question is, what happens if the focal person is not available? Then who translates the forecast to the ordinary fisherman? Did you hear the question, Mr. Potofi? Okay, I think Nana Kweja is here and wants to have a say on this matter. So Nana Kweja, just give me a minute. Your microphone is now open, so I'd introduce Nana Kweja. I think he is one of the persons representing the Canoe Fishermen Association in Ghana, so he has first-hand experience of using some of this information. So Nana Kweja, you can open your mic.
Yeah, thank you very much, and good afternoon to all attendees and then hosts. I must say that we appreciate the effort that Ghana Meteorological Agency and partners put up from time to time to improve on the service and especially on safety at sea initiatives that they undertake. The question about interpreting the forecast to the ordinary fisher, it remains an issue that actually needs improvement in spite of the work that we have done. I remember on 2 occasions we have had selected fishers from across the 4 coastal regions who were taken through the forecast by GMET, one at Kita and then one at Sege, all towards improving understanding of fishes of the forecast. Now, afterwards, what we have done is to create WhatsApp platforms for the various regions and representatives from the various communities on the platform. And what we do now is that and then we have also been selected fishers have been put on the WhatsApp platform of GMET, as the lady presenter mentioned. And once the forecast is shared, it is our responsibility to forward same into our various platforms. In addition, we interpret and then translate into local language in the form of voice message, since not everyone can read, but many of them can listen to the voice message and then advise themselves or take an action on it. This morning, for instance, we woke up and then we saw the warning that was issued, and quickly it has to be shared on the platform and the voice message added. I said it needs improvement because we should move from this level to another level. And the next level is for us to build the capacities of operators of community information centers. currently in Tema, when the forecast is shared and the fishers receive, it is announced on information center at the landing beach. But we want a situation where this goes to the entire communities so that whoever resides in the community hears of this. Not only the canoe owners, not only the fishers, but everybody in the community, because the information is relevant not only to the fisher or the canoe owner, but to other fisheries dependent population, the household and everyone. So we think that yes, GMET has done tremendously well by taking up the initiative and providing ocean state information. As an association, we also need to collaborate and take some other initiative within our means and at our level to support the effort of GMET. And that is why we are also doing what we are doing. We have been discussing with Director General, and I've even had meeting with GMET staff at Salt Pond Station. And we have even agreed on dates to move to the communities and then start the sensitization and then the capacity building program for the operators of the community information centers. So that is another step we are taking this to support what GMET and partners are doing. And I think we are stakeholders. So we wouldn't want to push everything to one stakeholder. We also want to do something to support it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Nana Kweja. But just before you go, there's one pressing question that people had, and I also wanted your opinion on this, on weather routing. Before artisanal fishermen go out to sea, how do you usually plan your trips, and how does this affect you in terms of the historical places where you like to fish, and if it is not convenient or if there's a storm or there's a system blocking access to that particular place? How do you go around it, and how do you collaborate with GMET or any of the relevant institutions to go around this particular issue?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello? Observing the weather to decide to go to sea or not to go to sea is something that our forefathers used to do. For instance, at the landing beach, they are able to put their feet in the sand and they will be able to determine whether there will be rain or not. That was in the olden days. Unfortunately, we did not preserve that that art, and so in our recent times, you just look at it seems the weather is good, then we go. But what usually happens is that you go to see. Sometimes the weather is good whilst you are unsure, but you go to see only to go and meet storm. In that case, you are not able to fish, and you will also be involved in an accident that affects everyone. But with the ocean state information that is provided to us, what we now do is that once we receive it, we share the information across, and we tell them where GMET has predicted the occurrences. Because on the forecast that is shared, they will sometimes say west, they will sometimes say east, the western coast, the eastern coast. And so we have learned from them that when they say the eastern coast, they are talking from water region to part of Greater Accra. Yeah, and then we have the western coast. So whatever we receive, we also interpret and translate as such, telling them where the rains are likely, the storm is likely to be, and the time that they say the storm will occur. So if you receive that information, then you will have to then know that, okay, if they are saying there will be, for instance, this morning, we're expecting rains between 6 and 4 p.m. Then it means within that period, it wouldn't be prudent for you to go. But if you want to go to sea, then you cannot go for the morning morning fishing, or let me put it that way. But then you can go in the evening and then come in the night. So depending on when we receive the information and then the details that is provided, that is what is shared regarding time, regarding which region or area the storm or whatever is expected to occur. So that has provided some guidance to us, but we are not in a position to tell exactly which part of the sea or something like that. But then we monitor the description of the coast of the west and then the east, and that is what we also use. And when it is cutting across all the regions too, it is communicated as such, as it was this morning. The communication was for almost all the regions, and it was communicated as such. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nana Kweja. And I'd entreat you to stay on for the next session, which is going to be of very much importance to you, and is going to throw a bit more light on the GMES and Africa project and the ocean alerts that are being disseminated via this particular project. I am skipping a couple of questions related to this particular issue because our next speaker will be talking in depth and would probably be facing the same questions. So I'd rather he does the presentation and then we'll take more questions on this particular issue. So at this time, I'd like to welcome Mr. Bennett Foley once again. Mr. Foley gave us a brief introduction to the GMES and Africa project on Tuesday. This time round, he will be talking specifically about the ocean state alert systems put in place by the GMES and Africa project. Good afternoon once again, Bennett. How are you doing?
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm doing well, and I'm sure you're also doing good.
Great, great. I think a lot of people are eager to find out more about this particular service, and there have been a lot of questions brewing since the first day. So without much ado, I'd give you the floor to talk about this particular service, and if time permits, probably also do a bit of a demonstration with the application.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. I'm very sad that all the previous speakers have dealt with most of the things I'm going to talk about, from Mr. Potofi, Mr. Adom, Muriel. They've all spoken about what I'm going to talk about. So basically, I'm just going to go over some of the things and then add a little bit of flesh to it. So I'd like to share my screen now. Can you see? Is my screen showing?
Yes, yes, it's visible.
Okay.
Can it be a full screen?
Yeah, I'm trying to do that. Okay. Is it in full screen now?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good. So basically, I'm going to be talking about the GMES and Africa Ocean State Forecasting Service, which has been talked about by previous speakers. So basically, we know that in West Africa, most of our fishermen are not equipped with sophisticated equipment for telling the weather at sea. And so most of the time they rely on their local knowledge and then to navigate to sea. They mainly navigate to go and locate fish, and also sometimes detect the weather at sea using traditional means by, as Nana Koja said, you dig your feet into the sand and then you are able to tell the weather. But those means can be erroneous. We've also heard of situations where fishermen use stars to tell the weather, how the weather is going to be. In this modern day, if you use stars, you might be mistaken because you might be seeing a satellite and you might think, oh, that is a star. And then you predict and you go to sea and you face dangerous conditions. There have been numerous reports of accidents at sea, mostly because people did not consult weather information before going, or they did not have access to that information. And that is the main reason why there is a need for us to encourage people to encourage our fishermen to, excuse me. Sorry. So we need to encourage our fishermen to consult early warning information before going to sea. And the GMES and Africa project is making available this information to all mariners, especially the artisanal fishers, so that the accident at sea can be avoided. So the main the program for providing the early warning information started under the MESA program since 2014, and then we were working with 14 West African countries just in West Africa, and then it went to GMES and Africa phase 1, which then metamorphosed to the GMES and Africa phase 2, which is now being involving 18 countries from both West and North Africa. And basically, we provide early warning alerts, which are generated automatically with mostly the data coming from the Copernicus Marine Environment Monitoring Service. The main objective is to support the safety of fishermen and other marine operators at sea, so that we protect them from accidents at sea, save their lives and save their properties. And this falls under some priorities, regional priorities on the continent. For instance, we're talking about maritime security and safety. We're talking about the African Integrated Maritime Strategy. We're also talking about the Sendai Framework, the Abidjan Convention, and also the UN Convention on Law of Sea. So all these are priorities that are geared towards protecting life and property at sea. And as we have previously said, we're working with 18 countries, 6 from North Africa and 12 from the West Africa region. So during when we first started providing the early warning services, we normally used we consulted, first of all, we consulted the fishermen, and they tried to show us what they understand by the sea state, how they define the various categories of sea states. For instance, looking at calm conditions, rough conditions, and dangerous conditions. And we try to find ways and means of communicating this to them that they would be able to understand in their own way. So we came out with colors, which we know they already were using on their landing beaches. So we chose those colors, red, yellow, and green, which they were already familiar with. So basically, we had to show them that when the ocean state is calm, we will use a green color. When it is rough, we use a yellow color. And when it's dangerous, we use a red color to demonstrate these conditions. And then we use questionnaires to find from them the height of the ocean, how they understand the height of the ocean using the B4 scale. And so we came out with a scale of the sea height, significant wave height of 1.5 and below, being defined as calm, as Mr. Potterfield said already, and from 1.5 to 2.5 being rough, and then above 2.5 being dangerous. And as Mr. Potterfield said previously, this can be different in various countries. And like he said, in Kenya, in South Africa, the ocean waves there are high, and also an instance of around Morocco, there about the ocean waves are very, very high. So, and they use different types of vessels and canoes. So depending on the size of the vessel and the canoe, we categorize these indices or categories. And so we used to send text messages manually when I started, but then we realized that this was more expensive to do. And again, not many people are able to access this information through the text messages. And so we developed the USSD application, where we make the information available through a short code. And with that short code, anybody at all can dial that short code and get the information. And in order to cater for those who are not so much educated, we try to use numbers in the short code, in the text message that they receive when they dial the short code, such as 1, 2, and 3, representing the conditions of calm, rough, and dangerous, respectively. And so, in addition to the USSD code, we also developed an app, the GMES UG mobile app, which now anybody at all can also use. Any people with advanced phone, Android phone, or iOS phone can install this app on it and be able to access the information. And so with this app, you don't only access the text, but you also access images of the conditions at sea. So in order to get this app, you need to go to the Android Play Store and be able to download it. I think let me see if I can try and mirror my phone to demonstrate this. So just give me a minute. I'm trying to my phone. It's working earlier. I don't know why it's messing up with me. Okay, let me just continue and then use let me just continue without the phone demonstration. Okay, but I believe that when you go to the Android store, you will find it and just type in GMES-UG, you will find the app as you can see on the screen. So once you find it and you download it, you install it, and then you open it. And when you open it, this is the interface on the left side. You will see the rotating globe and also a continue button. When you tap on the continue button, it opens the image on the right for you. You will see a menu. And on that, you will find the ocean state map, ocean state alert. You find potential fishing zone map, and then other information. So for the early warning, you can find the map from the first button. So once you click on the first button, it's going to show you the map, which is now demonstrated on the right side now. So with the map, you have the whole region of West and North Africa, and you can zoom into your country, your location, to see the ocean state for 4 days forecast. It's for the current day and the next 3 days. So the colors, you can see the colors of on the map, indicating the red, the yellow, the green for dangerous and calm situations. And beneath, you see the date, the calendar, where you select the date on which you want to see the forecast. So once you select the date, the image follows, and then you are able to tell the ocean conditions for that day. And also, if you just want to get a text for the forecast for that day, you just select the ocean state alert button, and that also brings you the calendar, the country, the calendar, and then the forecast. So you can select your country from the drop-down menu above on top of the application. So once you click, you can see the various countries, all the 18 beneficiary countries, and then you can come down to select the dates. And once you select the dates, you will find the ocean information, which is ocean state forecast to give you the date, and then to give you the number into bracket, the interpretation of the number. And that, for instance, you have 2 meaning rough, and then you see that, and then you get the forecast for that day. This is provided in, for now, 3 different languages: English, Portuguese, and French. And we are working to add Arabic also to it, since we are now working with with North Africa countries. So yeah, so when you click on the country drop-down menu, this is what you see, and then you see the various countries, and you select the country that you are coming from. And this is an example for Senegal. Select Senegal, and then you get the forecast. Yeah, so I did mention earlier about the USSD code. So for the USSD application, it has been developed for now only for Ghana and Nigeria. So in Ghana, if you're in Ghana, you dial the code *920*88#, and then you be presented with the various days to select from for the forecast. So you have numbers 1 to 4 indicating the number of the days you want to select. The 1 representing the current day, the 2, 3, 4 representing the subsequent days. And once you select, you get the forecast, which is, you can see on the bottom right. It tells you what the condition is on that particular day. And for Nigeria, you need to dial *348*, 87 hash. We are working to develop this USSD code in other countries. We are working with our partners and what we call the focal points, national focal points, to develop some of these services for the other various countries that we are working with. In the coming days or weeks, we hope to improve upon this service by adding rainfall information to the app. We are already generating the rainfall information, but we are working to update the app to include this information on it. And also, we're looking at adding a voice over in the app where you can voice over aspect in the USSD where you can, when you dial the USSD app number, there will be a section that you dial another number to select your local language, and then it will tell you in your local language the forecast for the day. And this is to help those who are not conversant with the English language and who can understand only their local languages. And with this, we believe we can reach many more people. We have a dashboard which we want to improve on that we use to monitor the USSD application. So for instance, last year we realized just within a particular day, that is 26th of August, about 410 people used the USSD application. And just about 3 days ago, that was 28th May, when I checked again, we have about 370 people using the application on one particular day. In all, we realized that about 81,000 people have used the application since 28th May this month. So it means that this service is indeed serving the needs of the people. And one thing we do is to encourage feedback from them. Like Nana Kweja also said, he's one of the chief users and encouraging his people to use it. And I need to state strongly that this information, we work with the Ghana Meteorological Agency to provide this information to the fishermen. So as Mr. Potofi and the others said earlier, we provide the information in different ways, several ways, in the form of bulletins, and also in addition to the USSD code and the app as well. We have engaged in sensitization in many parts of the coast, together with GMES and the Ministry of Fisheries as well. And we are still working to continue the engagement in several other countries. Recently, we visited Morocco and engaged them as well on the USSD application. And they also expressed different other interests that we are working on to include in the services. These are some of the feedbacks we received over the period, and they are mostly positive feedbacks and also trying to make suggestions of what we can include. Some people suggested we include inland monitoring of the water bodies, which GMES is working on, as indicated earlier by Mr. Adom. Yes, we've organized sessions where we've received feedback from the fishermen groups, and we still continue to receive feedback through various means, such as WhatsApp groups, which we have created and that we've put the fishermen on. Okay, so thank you very much. I don't know if there's still a little bit of time. I can just do a demonstration of how we get the data from the Copernicus and do the analysis. I don't know, Mr. Williams, can I just do a little bit of that?
Yes, we can allow you some extra 5 minutes, and then we'll take the questions. I guess the a lot of questions already trooping in. So we'll give you some extra 5 minutes just to take us through the process, and then, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So basically, we get most of the data sets from Copernicus Marine Environment Services, as I said, and the system is automated to download data from Siemens, Copernicus site. So when you go to the Copernicus site, which is the marine.copernicus.eu, you find several products. One, this is the website, and this is where you can find the product. When you click on ocean products, you get this various products. And the one that we mostly use is the ocean wave analysis and forecast. You click on it, and then this is what comes about. You click on data access, but first of all, you should have registered with the Siemens site. You receive a login information, and you can use it to access the data. So once you click on the data access, you have the various data sets that are available, the types of under that category of data. And then you need to go to download. You can download the metadata to look at what the data contains. And you can also come to this section to click on download. When you click on download, it brings you the various variables in that data set. You can decide to select all or just select the relevant ones that you need. So I'll just remove the ones that I don't need and keep only the one I need. So the main one that I need is significant wave height. So I keep that one. And now I come down and then put in my area of interest. Let's say latitude 40 north and let's say 35 west. And let's say 15 east and 10 south. And once you input that, the area is selected for you in the map here. Okay, so this minus 10. Okay, so that cover both North and West Africa. Now you come down, you need to select the date that you want to download the data, the date for which you want to download the data. So I select from today. Today is 1st, and then to tomorrow, or maybe out to 5th. And once I select the date, I then come here to say download. Now I can download data directly from here. Like it's downloading, or I can get a script. I can get a script by clicking on the API request. Here, API request. I can get a script which I can customize in my programming language or programming software like Python or MATLAB or any one that you are conversant with. So I copy this and put it in my programming language and modify some of the parameters. So I'll show a simple example here. So this is a sample that I have. One thing about the Copernicus data download is that they use an app or a software called the Motu client. The Motu client, you need to install the Motu client for it to be able to download using your script. So I download and install the Motu client and indicate the path, and then I indicate my password and the username and password, and I indicate the the Mercator Motu Web, which is part of the script that I copied. So if you look at the script that I copied, so you have the Motu Web. Yeah, this is the Motu. So I break down all this long code into pieces. You have the Motu Web, you have the service ID, which is here, and then you have the product ID, which all is in the code here. So Motu Web, service ID, product ID, and then your area of interest, lat long, which is also in the code here. So you have your latitude, here, your latitude, longitude here, and then you specify the date, the minimum date and the maximum date, which is also specified in here. I create that date from the beginning so that I create it as a variable so that whenever it changes, automatically it will pick it up. And then I insert it into the final script. So I have the latitude and then the variables that you want to download, you indicate the variable, which is indicated here. The variable here, that is a variable VHMO, which is the significant wave height, and then the direction. The directory, the output directory from which you want the data to be saved, into which you want the data to be saved, you indicate it, and you indicate your username and password, which I have all broken down into pieces here. And then at the end of the day, I bring it all together here so that when the script runs, it just put everything together and then download the data. We do this in such a way that we call this script automatically and it downloads the data automatically so that you don't have to be doing this manually every day. And also we automate the analysis by using EEZ shapefile, which pulls out the data for each country and does the analysis and does the code, the calculation of the indices, and as well as the dissemination of the information to all users. So basically, this is just a brief way of telling you how we do our forecasting and the automation of the forecasting. We do this together with GMET, and we have learned a lot, try to adapt how to make things easy between the two institutions over the period. So we need to do this with other meteorological agencies in the region. And so I'm going to be cutting the meteorological agencies. You can contact me, send me a mail, a message, and then we can work together in developing some similar thing for your country, as automating the weather forecast for your country. So basically, this is how we do our forecast.
Thank you very much, Mr. Foley.
Thank you. Yeah,
I'll jump straight into the questions for now. So there's a question from Emmanuel. Emmanuel is from Togo, and he wants to know, what have you done to convince the fishermen to believe you and subscribe to the forecast? And this is open to all our panelists today, from Mr. Foley to Mr. Potofi and his guys at Ghana Meteorological Agency.
Okay, thank you very much. That's a good question. So what have we done for the fishermen to believe us? First of all, it is mostly about engagement. For the fishermen to know such a thing exists, you have to engage them and create their awareness. So we have been engaging them, creating their awareness, and trying to direct them to the information that we provide. One, most importantly, is the accuracy of the information that is provided, the accuracy and then the reliability. If you engage them and you provide them information and information is not accurate, they access it today and it is not accurate, tomorrow they will not come back. But if it is accurate, if the information is accurate and it is helpful to them, they realize that the information is good to them, they continue to come back. And that is what we have been working on over the years. We have been trying to make sure that the information we provide is as accurate as much as possible. We know we use models. There could be issues with the model sometimes, but those issues, when they come about, we encourage them to give us their feedback so that we can work on it to correct those issues. So basically, that is what we have been doing to let the fisherman be happy about getting the information. I hope I've been able to answer that question.
Yes, I think it's fine. I just want to know if Mr. Potifi would want to add anything.
Oh, well, I think Mr. Foley has said it all. It is a trust and a confidence in the forecast that make them to follow us a lot. But as I said earlier, in producing those forecasts too, you must be able to consult them, engage them, and then get information on what their needs are. Because some of them will tell you, yes, you've not been giving us the current, the movement of the current. If you understand what they mean by the current, and you include that in the forecast for them, and it is working for them, they will always go for it. But if you sit in your corner or in your office and thought you know everything, and you just prepare the data, you prepare the information and go and throw it on them without their input, it will be very, very difficult. So it is the collaboration, the engagement of them, and let them understand the parameters you are using in your forecast. When they understand them in their own languages, and it's also very reliable and prompt for them, and it's timeous, because at times when you don't send a forecast timely and they realize that you are flip-flopping, they will come back to you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Potifi. Moving on to the next question. Apart from weather information, does your forecast also provide information on locating fish distribution for fishermen? Mr. Foley.
Okay, yeah. So if you joined the training on day one, I presented on the services that we provide from GMES and Africa. And one of these services is provision of potential fishing zone information, where you can get information on the possibility of finding fish, the locations where you are able to find fish, and so you'll be able to go there to fish. However, this information that we produce in our region, we don't give it directly to the fishermen. We rather provide it to the fisheries managers, like Fisheries Commission and the Ministry of Fisheries. We rather give this information to them so that they will use it to go and monitor the system for people doing the bad things, engaging in illegal fishing. The main reason being that we believe that our fisheries is already stressed, overfished. And so if we give this to the fishermen, the situation will be worsened. But we provide this information to the manager. The manager can decide, okay, we are going to give it to the fishermen, or they can decide to keep it and use it for just the monitoring. So we provide this information, but we provide it to fisheries managers. Yeah.
All right, thank you. I did also notice in your slides that there was a section in there for the potential fishing zone apps. Will this be available to the public if they do subscribe or download your app?
So when you download the app, basically you have to send a subscription, and if we realize you are coming from an institution, you provide your email address and other information. You realize you are coming from one of the monitoring institutions, we can give you access, but not to the fisherman. Maybe in the future, why not, we could have, depending on government decisions or the country's decisions, we can allow the access to the platform by fishermen.
Thank you. The next question has to do again with the app. How can the app be distributed to fishermen in Liberia and in other maritime services along the coast of West Africa?
Okay, so if you are talking about the app is available on Android store to anyone at all who wants to have access can download this app. You don't need permission from anybody. You don't need to be given any special access. You just go to Play Store, Android Play Store, or iOS equivalent, and then you download the app. The name of the app on Android is GMES-UG. So you just search and you download and install it, and you are good to go. You can get the information right from there. Whether you are a fisherman, whether you are a manager, or whoever you are, anybody at all can have access.
I think this will be one of our last questions for today, coming from Reginald. Is it possible to include protected areas in the app, just as potential fishing zones are being added?
Oh yes, definitely it is possible to include it. So it's just a layer that needs to be included, and that is, once the need is expressed by many, it can easily be done. But because protected areas are static, we could find another means of providing information on that protected areas. It doesn't change.
Okay, I think what the person is trying to talk about is integrating the protected area layer on top of the potential fishing zone layer. So then if we sight a vessel within a particular protected area, it would be easier to detect an infraction or an illegality being committed. So I think it's something that you'd also want to consider in your app development and improvement. The last question, does app development require listening to the problems fishermen face? How do you integrate this in your app development, and how often do you do that?
Yeah, definitely. As when I began, I said before we developed the USSD and all those things, we consulted the fishermen. So the comments of the fishermen is what drives how we develop the service. So what we put in the service, the information, and how we even go about disseminating it, it's all coming from the fisherman. So when we first started, I said we were sending the messages directly to the fishermen via text message, and then from there we realized they are not many of them are able to access it, and from their request we get the USSD code in, and some of them were using smartphones, and so that came that we can also use the mobile app, and then we developed the mobile, and a lot of them too are using the mobile app. So we do engage them.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Foley. Thank you so much for your questions. Before we go, as I promised earlier, before we started today's session, I said I was going to go through once again through the processes of getting information from the digital learning platform. It seems a couple of you are still facing a lot of problems in accessing the site with respect to your usernames and passwords. I do have to mention some people have registered on the platform more than once using different usernames and passwords as well. So I'd encourage you to please check your emails for the passwords and the usernames that have been provided for you. These are the credentials that you would have to use. Do not use any other credentials because these are what have been used to enroll you in the courses. So I'm going to start over here. Once you navigate to the GMES training platform, you click on login, and this is what is going to be displayed. So I have an example of a username being stored over here, and I'm just going to use this to display the information. So you click on login, and if all the details are correct, it is going to log you in. So this is for a particular user, Evelyn. Sorry for using this, but this is just to demonstrate that your user account does actually work. So once you are logged in, you should be able to view the course in the tab that we have over here. So by clicking view course, it is going to display the information that has been displayed over the various days. So by clicking on each day, you should be able to access the various materials. So I indicated yesterday that all PowerPoints would have at the end PPT showing indicating PowerPoints. I've also embedded the various videos from the PowerPoint presentations. And we also have the recordings from the various days embedded here. To be able to complete the course, I've indicated that you need to finish 2 quizzes that are present on day 1 and the day 2 activity pages. There are also extra information embedded on this page. So you do not have to navigate outside this page to watch the video. Just click on the video and it should load the recording for you based on what had happened on the previous days. When you go back to the general page, once all the requirements have been concluded, every announcement is posted under announcements, and you should be able to get this on in your various emails, the discussion forum in case you still have any questions. And then there's an evaluation and feedback. Mind you, this is important that you do this before you are able to receive your certificate of completion. So you have 3 activities that you need to complete. Quiz 1 needs to be completed and passed. The same for quiz 2. And then you have the evaluation and feedback that you have to complete as well. And by tomorrow, hopefully, once all the conditions are met, your certificate of completion should become active. And once you click on it, you should be able to download your certificate. In case you still have challenges accessing the site, problems with your username and password, please send me an email. I'll be available to assist you as much as I can. And then hopefully you should be able to pass and get your certificates for the course. I'd like to thank our various presenters who have been with us through the 3 days from day 1 until now, especially the staff of the Ghana Meteorological Agency. We are very honored to have had you over here to train the various people from. Yes, Mr. Foley.
So if you can give me just 2 minutes to demonstrate the app again on my phone.
I'm sorry, we are out of time now, so unfortunately we have to wrap up. So we'll look at that. We'll look at that in the slides, and I'm hoping they should be able to follow. I'd like to thank the staff of the Ghana Meteorological Agency, the staff of the GMES and Africa project, Mr. Bennett Foley. We are very grateful for the opportunity to share that with us. For all of you who tuned in from within West Africa, Africa, and various places around the world, we are very happy for you to be able to join us. We would hope that you continue to be with us during our next training sessions. And as like we always do, we have a minute left. I would like to give this opportunity to one or two of our participants to give us a general feedback on the training, if there's any, before we finally sign out. So if you want to make any contribution or a last statement, just raise your hand. I'll enable your microphone for you, and then you'll be able to pass whatever message you have on and how beneficial this course has been to you. Okay. All right, so Paulinus from Sierra Leone, the floor is yours. You have a few seconds just to make your points. Please enable your microphone and your camera and then speak to us.
Thank you very much, Paulinus from Ghana Meteorological Agency. I want to thank you all and the team of trainees for making this training and course very, very much interesting, very, very much knowledgeably packed. I've learned a lot these few days. I believe what I've learned here, I'll be able to go over and try to see if we can apply them in our own agency. Together, sit down, talk with my bosses and see of the good things that I've learned here, will be able to implement them in our agency. And I also want to lead that, especially to Ignatius, that if there is any issue that I'll come across, I'll be able to contact you to see how you can be able to catch that well for me. Once again, thank you very much for being part of this project.
Thank you very much, Paulinus, and we do appreciate your time spent with us. And we'd also look forward to collaborating with your agency to be able to make some of this services available in Sierra Leone as well. And we do have a focal person in Sierra Leone, and this is the person that we've been working through. In case you have any problems, also just send us an email and we will connect you with her to be able to facilitate this process in your country as well. I have time for just one more person. Whoever is interested, please just raise your hand and I'll give the floor to you. Okay, I think that is it. So I'd like to thank you all once again for joining us, and we'll hope to meet again in our next online course. I'll be sending you a notification once the course is available, and I'd like to entreat you to complete the evaluation and course feedback. It is very important for us to be able to improve some of the information that we put out. And in case you have any other interest in the marine and coastal domain for courses that you'd want us to implement, please leave it within the feedback and evaluation section. Thank you very much. And until we meet again in the next course, thank you once again.